Hello and welcome, episode 4 of Solar Factory Season 2. I must admit, I've completely forgotten what I said I was going to do at the end of episode 3. I have not played for a couple of weeks, if not longer, so I've kind of lost track of kind of everything I was doing. So what I thought I'd do is just jump back in, get a lay of the land of what I've got going on, what I need to do next, and make a sort of a shortish update video. I think to see my first problem is I ain't got no power. So that's the first thing I need to do. What are you doing there? I have no idea how you're standing there, but good on you. Right, so let's have a look. We've got no power, which means we need to make our way to the generators, which you may recall I've now got eight coal generators, all lined up there perfectly. And weirdly, some of them are actually going, which is odd. So if you take the smoke into consideration, we've got... That's a really weird setup. I would not expect it to have done it that way. If I was expecting them to be working, it'd be the first 4 or 5 and the last 2 or 3 that wouldn't be going. So let's have a quick look. If we go into here, our max consumption is at 332. So we've got no water. That's our problem. Looks like we've got enough. Okay. This is what we have. These couple of... Oop, we have this biomass burner sitting here. And the other one over in that corner. So that allows us to feed this biomass and hopefully have enough power generated by those two that we can power these water. What do we actually need first? Oops. So 13.7 for that one. 13.7. They all should be 13.7 because they're all doing exactly the same thing. And they are all 13.7. Let's make the maths easy. Round it to 14. 14 by 4 is 56, we'll call it. So we need at least 60 megawatts. In fact, while I'm under here, let me just turn on auto pickup, and we'll just go through and pick up a bunch of this stuff while we're under here. So we're going to need it. Let's pick up a bunch of these leaves. I'm not too sure. I wonder if this actually has... Some of these things actually grow back. I thought I'd been along this waterfront and picked everything, picked it clean, but either stuff grows back and I didn't realise that, or I didn't do as much pickup as I thought I did. Anyway, maybe it didn't come this far through. It doesn't matter. Anyway, we shall pick. Okay, maybe not. Just go. We do have an awful lot across the other side of the river if we need to. Alright, what have we got there? 250 order. Nearly 250. Yeah, I thought I put a ladder there. Sure, I put a ladder there. It's under architect, isn't it? Yeah. Remember how to play this game. Right, trigger to build. Right, trigger to build. Alright. Right. First thing we'll do is we'll come over here. And we'll turn all that leaves into biomass. Because that is way more efficient. And in fact, solid biofuel is even more efficient again. So we'll turn that into that. Okay. We'll do about 60 or so once we're finished, I think. Then what we'll do is we'll disconnect the biomass burners from the main grid. So you can see the biomass burners connect to that power pole, then to that power pole, and then to that power pole. Okay, so they already are connected only to the... Okay, that could be our problem. Alright, so we'll split the fuel in half first by going split and doing that. That's not going to be enough to do that, so we'll go into here and do the same here. And that should give us 60. And if we get the water pumping, which it's already going, we'll check. Hopefully we'll start seeing some water go into these pretty quickly. So that one's alright. I'll use the... Actually... so you're full of water. You're full. You're full. You're full. You're full. You're full. Alright, let's do this. And we should... Alright, all 8 are firing. Keep an eye on this one. You're just looking at the water consumption there, just where it says water, current amount in building, 50 of 50. See, it drops very briefly down, then pops back up again. You're just looking for that to happen. Because what can happen in this is that water doesn't flow properly, so they basically don't fill up quick enough. But so far, so good with those couple of cycles, production cycles there. So what we'll do now, because if we don't attach that pole there to power to the rest of the grid, so we'll plonk him over to there. That will basically mean we should now be on the main, they should all be connected to the main grid, including the biomass burners now. So each of those produce 75, so we've got 8 by 75, so 600 I think it is. Is that right? 75, 1, yeah, 600, plus the 30 of each of those. So we should have 660 as our capacity. You can see 660 is our capacity. Not too sure why it says production 600 though, because I'm pretty sure we're producing 660. So now what we might do is actually turn off these biomass journals by going right trigger to turn him off so that they don't actually get used anything, because now the power should effectively coming from the rest of the grid, which essentially is those 8 things. So we just jump back into here. So see our production capacity is now fallen to match. Current consumption is around the 300-ish mark. Goes up and down as you'd imagine. If everything's running 100% full throttle, we'll be just under 390. So even with that, we've got a bit of headway, which is good. Let's jump back over here and just double check. If you look at the way I'm looking at the very furthest one in this list, is this train is for 2 reasons. One, it's actually at the end of the manifold distribution method for the coal. So the way that the splitters work is that they split 50-50 in any, well, not 50-50, they split evenly across the outputs that they've got. So what that means is, if you look at the very first one, which is going to be obviously this one here. Oh, that's a bit of a problem. Why if we run out of coal? It's just about to come back in. You can just, that's probably the issue with the fact that the miners stop functioning for a bit. So you can see the first one, when it comes in, it's going to split to this machine and then split to the left. The next one will split to the machine to the left. So basically 50% of the initial input will come into the generator we're on now, which has got a little bit of a headway in terms of what's in the build. I think it's about to start running out. Yes, it's 100. Now it's out of 99. But if we watch this, so it'll just coming up around here. It'll come up, and you'll see if I get back onto it. It's on the other side. Bugger. So see how it's basically coming 50-50 into here. Now this is full. And now because it's full, it's overloaded. More, you can see now the left-hand part of that is going through a lot more fully now. And then basically, as it goes down the train, down the track of all these splitters, that behaviour is matched along the way. What that means, though, is that the very last one in this track, which has gone through multiple splits now, so it's doing split 50-50, split 50-50, split 50-50, 50-50, all the way down to this very last one, it can actually take, it can start to get, what's the one I'm looking for? Starved of coal, because not enough's coming through quick enough. But it looks like it's actually going decent at the moment. So there's obviously enough in the backlog. There's one coming in. Okay, so this has gone to 98. 98 still. 97. 96. Yeah, it's just gone back up to 96. Back down to 95. And that will eventually take a good few minutes for each of the generators in turn to get full and to start essentially back. Didn't mean to fall down there. So let's have a look. See that one's now. You see that one's basically saturated. So one every now and then will go through to that one, but more often not, it'll go straight through. It'll just go straight through after that initial split. And what you can do is you come down the manifold path, and you can basically see where it's starting to saturate. So it's okay, starting to saturate there. See the next one, the third last one? That's where we've got to get to. So let's come back to, I think it might be the next one. Yeah, you see how that one, this one's pretty much saturated. You can see how much more are going from right to left. And every now and then, this one, the one that comes towards us moves, but so more often than not, probably 80%, 75%, something like that are going straight through, which is good. And you can see this one is now splitting 50-50. So when it gets to 50-50, by the time it gets to that last one, it's getting like a third of of the actual output because it's getting split more and more as it keeps going down. So let's just have a look at the number that's in this one. So it's at 93, 94, so 94 drops to 93, down to up to 94. Very briefly got to 95 there, and then it's up to 95. So that one's slowly catching up. If you sit here for a bit, it'll eventually start hitting 96. There we go. We'll eventually hit 100, and then when it hits 100, you will see that it starts to back up on the belt. Okay, that's 98, 99 briefly, 99, 99. You should see 100 soon. There's 100. Now you want 100 to stay consistent for a while. So there's 100. Now we'll start to see it back up in the belt. We're still getting the 50-50 split, but now it's going to be backing up inside the belt. Now it's going to be backing up inside the lifter, and then it'll start to back up on the belt. We can see leading into the lifter, and then eventually it'll back up into the splitter, and you'll see more come through to the left as it goes through. So just watch this a bit longer. There's the first one there. You start to see it hitting the belt there. And now we'll start to see this one back up even further. And now you'll start to see that it starts to back up, and you'll see a lot more frequently coming straight through this split. So there's two coming in, and one went through, two coming in. Alright, so now we're on this one. This is down to 70. This will be even lower. This is probably in the 40s or 50s. No, 75. That's surprising. Okay. The way you solve this, if you have, is to a couple of different ways. There is a different method of feeding, and this is called manifold. It's the what's the one I'm looking for? It's the method you use if you've got a limited amount of space, because this takes up a strip like this. I mean, I can make this way more compact as well if I wanted to, by having the splitters more closer to the belt, the lifters. But you just need a single input, and it will just flow down the train. The problem with it though is, as you can see, the very end of the chain is always going to be slower to get fully saturated. You've got a couple of options around that. You can seed them. You can go and get a bunch of coal and manually feed it into it, so that it doesn't matter that it's a bit slower to get fully saturated. Or yeah, so that's pretty much maintaining the difference now. Yeah, so that's been it. If we sit here and watch this for a bit, it basically goes 75, 76, 75, 76, 76, and just stay there, which is fine. Doesn't need to be 100% full to be working generator. And likewise with this one, it'll go 69, 70, 69, 70, and just sit there. Whereas other ones will be sitting on 100, which is fun. Either way, they're getting enough. So, yeah, the other machine you've got is what's just load balancing. That takes up a lot more space. You've still got your main incoming belt run coming in, but then it splits into two, then it might split again into two and two to give you four, and it just takes up way more space because of that, but it is balanced. So, pros and cons to both, of course, but yeah, my preference is the manifold. And just beware that you're going to have some issues whereby the the very end ones might take a bit to get fully going. So yeah, that's that. The other option you got is have a higher input coming into it than actually what's needed. So you look at this, it needs 15 per minute for each generator. So you've got 8 times 15, so that's 15, 30 for 2, 60 for 4 of them, 120 total. Now that's the fastest belt I've got there at the moment. I've got a Mark II belt, which goes at 120 items per minute. What you could do is go to the miner and make it go faster and have a my higher capacity belt come in. The next level is Mark III, which is 270. So if you have 270 and you can saturate the 270 belt, then because you're going to have way more than what's needed, it'll saturate the manifold belt much quicker because it's coming in higher than what it's needed. Just sort of basically supply and demand kind of stuff. I don't think I can at the moment. I don't think I'll do that. I'm not really sure why that stopped working before. I suspect the generators for the extractors just stopped functioning, and that caused the extractors to stop. Therefore, the machines to generate themselves to stop. Let's just jump on this and just say. So yeah, there's a fair bit to the power stuff, especially when you need the liquids to make them function. Liquids can be a little bit hit and miss sometimes, but for the most part it's fairly straightforward. Oh, I'm hitting my vital ladder somewhere. I do over there. Let's just get back up to the sort of main factory floor and figure out what I'm actually doing, because I'm obviously I've got the goal there in the top right of the phase 2, which is to make 1,000 versatile frameworks, which I've got a couple of hundred in storage somewhere. Now what is, I'm just using my little web thing that I created myself, which I might actually do an episode where I just show what I've done with that. It's using one of the mods that I'm using and feeding data to a website that I can look at while I'm also playing this. So a versatile framework requires yes, that's right, it requires modular frames and steel beams. So I'm pretty sure I'm making that up here somewhere. I think that's making the versatile frameworks there. Yep, there they are. Okay. So 2.5 meters and 30 a minute. Yep, okay. It takes 24 seconds to make one cycle, but you can see we're actually making 2 per cycle. So because you've got 24 is 48, which gives you 4 and half of a cycle, so that's why it's got 5 per minute as the output. Now let me just get back up in here because I need to have a look at what I've done here. Let's just have a quick look. Uh-oh, this is going to hurt. Make that again. Here we go. So I know that we've got, so there's 2 runs of coal. There's 2 miners way down the far end, way beyond the power generators, and that's feeding the generators, of course. And the other one is feeding that foundry, combined with some iron ore to make steel ingots, which is getting made into steel beams by that constructor into that constructor into that container. Then they've been fed out slowly to that there, which is cool. And their modular frames, they require, I think they're reinforced plates and iron rods, if I recall. Yes, reinforced plates and iron rods. So basically, I'm making a bunch of iron rods. Where am I making all this? Where am I making the? Oops. Am I making the modular frames down underneath? Am I? No, they're made in here. So what have we got here? What have I? How did I set this up? Oh, okay. So I'm making the. I must be making. Yes. Okay. This is what I've done. So I've got this making reinforced plates, which is running 100%, which is good. And you're running 100%. Excellent. So you're producing 5 plus 5, which would make it. Oops, that's not what I want to click on. Making that 10 a minute of those being made. So 10 a minute of modular, of reinforced plates. And then we're feeding that into. So they're coming. Where are they coming up? Oh, there. And they're fed into 1, 2 assemblers, 3 assemblers, 3 assemblers. Okay, so they're making that. So we've got 10 reinforced plates being made a minute, and we're needing 3, and I'm assuming they're all just running 100%. Yeah, and I'm gonna check the last one just to be sure. So of those 10 a minute, we're using 9 a minute up here for these modular frames. And then we're using 12 rods per minute. So 12, 12, 12 is 36. Oh, just empty this while I'm here. So what have we got here? We've got. Okay, so we've just got this one just going straight into container and not going anywhere. That will eventually fill up and then we'll figure out something else to do with it. That one is full up, but it is also going across there. Where's the ladder for this little side thing there? Is that saturated? Yep. So that's full. Okay, so that one's not quite full. So what are we making a minute here? 15. So we're oversupplied by 12, 12, and 12 is 36, but we're making 15, 15, 45. So 9 a minute more than we need. Hence why. Are each of these feeding one by themselves? That's going into that one. That's going into the second one. And okay, yeah. So it's actually 3 per setup here. And the fourth one just goes into a container. Which, yes, okay. Okay. So as a result of that, when we make our versatile frameworks, they're going into to here, where we've got 50, 50, 50s to 100, 200, almost 300. Almost 300 in storage. So Yes. Okay. So, so what's going to be our biggest issue with this is going to be, have we got enough? Okay, we've got a lot. Excellent. I don't think, let me just check the requirement for this thing. 30 a minute. How many beams am I making a minute? I'm only making 15. So at some point, and that's not even running 100% anyway, because you can see with that, it's running 75%. So it needs 60 ingots a minute, and it's probably only getting probably 45, because I suspect that's all that's putting out. Yeah, 45. Okay. So at some point, this will run out because we're not feeding it at 30 a minute. We're feeding it at, ultimately, probably like 10 a minute. Let me check my little setup here. So that's a constructor making steel beams. It's basically making about, according to the thing I've got here, about 11, just over 11 per minute, which is kind of what you're kind of seeing there. So that's alright. Okay. So in there we've got, how many in there we've got? Just 1650. So 1650 divided by 30. Just trying to get a sense of how long that container is going to last, because it's not going to keep up. So if we go, just doing this on a calculator, 1650 divided by 30. So it's going to last about an hour at the current consumption rate that needs before that is empty. And until then, it will basically run at 100%. Because we are making, I didn't actually check what, because it looks like we're also saturated the output of the overflowing, the overdoing the correct production of the modular frames as well. How much does each one of these make? They're making 2. So that's 2, 4, 6 a minute being made. Let's just check. I've got, that's an assembler, and we're making modular frames. Yeah, and they are running, as you can almost imagine, they're running 100%. So if we're making 6 a minute, and this only needs, what's it, 2.5 a minute, then we're obviously making 3.5 more. So at some point, that container that's there will get full. Now the containers can hold a fair bit, so it's going to take a while. Alright, so I think we're okay with that. The problem is within roughly an hour though, we're going to run out of beams. And then I'm going to have to update the beam production to maintain the 30 that it needs. So I'll have to figure out how I'm going to do that, because I'm actually not sure how it's not. Now that's still maintaining 45, but this needs 60. So have I got a shard with me? No, I don't. So we'd have to make that go to at least 150 to go to 60 a minute. Yeah, that'll do. And then that's probably going to require 60-minute coal and 60-minute iron ore. Now I think that's going to be okay because that's on its own dedicated belt. Now this, I think, is an afterthought from here. I'm not too sure what I'm getting fed in from that. Let's go check this one. I haven't been over here in a while. So, I think this is on a pure note if I recall. That's a long way away. Yeah, it's a pure note. So they can go an awful lot more. So that's producing or outputting 120. And you can even see that that is way underdone. It's got 100 or so sitting in its own output. So that's producing 120. Let me just jump onto here and make it quicker. So 120 is coming out of that machine. And then it's going up here. So it's not being used down the below. So it's been used only up top here. So 120 coming in, and then it's going to split the 50-50 you're talking about before. But the question is, what's it need? This is a load balance split up, you can see. So it comes in, gets split 50-50, then gets split again. So that comes in at whatever it comes. It technically comes in at 60 a minute because it's half of 120. And then it gets split 30-30 and then 15-15. So that's nearly 30 minutes. So that's overdoing it. Which basically means that this only needs, if we actually look at the actual need, it's 30. Wait a second, no way. 30 is 60. And then 30, that's actually using 120 on its own. That's interesting. This basically means because we've got so because these are running 100, well that one's not, but because they're running they're running 100, that's running 100, that's running at 80, just a bit under, and I think this will probably be going 100, yeah, but that will come to a grinding halt when this is full, which isn't that far away, and that's running at that speed because that's full. That's full, so I'm surprised that you can see the output's got 120 in it. When it gets to 200, which is the maximum stack size for iron rods, that percentage from where it's just sitting at 100 in that middle panel will start to drop down, and that one's still going to go 100% for a while because that is not full. So yeah, okay. So that's why, even though it needs its own 120 a minute, because of the efficiency of that stuff, it's using way less than the 120 it actually needs, because most of the machines aren't running 100%. So so I've got a couple of options here. Obviously that's going to stop running and outputting in a moment, so we could probably just about get that to 100% of that thing and turn it off. Um, Or the other alternative. So what would it actually need up here again? So 12. So 36. So one option we've got is you can make, so that's 15, and it needs 36. So if you make that, if you made that output to 20 a minute, and you made that output to 20 a minute, you'd had 40. You could feed that manifold style in front of this and just feed the 3 of those, and then have an overflow from them going to an awesome sync, for example, to keep them actually flowing 100% and not stopping. And then you'd basically just turn off these other two and just run 2 of them. So if we up that to 40, if we did that, if we change that to 20, you can set it to 1 to 1, so it's 1 in, 1 out. So if we want a 20 minute, we need 20 minute ingots. Thankfully, it's also 1 to 1 down here, so yeah, 20 ingots, 20 iron ore. So if we did that, we'd need 20 iron ore in to make 20 ingots to then make 20 to make 20. So we'd need 40 coming out of that belt run, which would give us 80 to go down to here because we've got 120. And that would be enough to get this up to probably up to the 60 we need to feed that. So what we're going to do is we're going to wait until that is full, then we'll just turn that machine off. I wonder if we could actually start making these adjustments now, because we've got an absolute bucket load sitting in them. So we've already got a bit of the manifold set up already because we've got 2 belts coming into that. Now the problem we've got is they're not at the same level. What I'm going to do, I'm going to start adjusting this one to make, no, I need 1, 2, I need 4 power shards to do this. But technically I need 5 because I need to put another one in that one. So can I make some power shards? I may need to go and do some power slug hunting, because I don't think I've got any in storage anywhere. Let me just check my little dashboard thing here. Apparently I've got 2 power slugs somewhere. See if I can find them. If they're going to be anywhere, they should be in this one here. No. Oh, have I got them on me? Oh, I do. I've got them on me. That's useful. That's convenient. I need to do into that, and we go down to this bottom bit, and we can. Oh, it gives us 2 shards. Okay. I do apparently, according to this thing that I've got here, I do have 2 more tower slugs, blue power slugs somewhere. Apparently, I just don't know where they are because they are not in there. Where else could I possibly have put them? I don't think they'll be in there because that would say mix on the front. Fortunately, I haven't quite got my little thing working to tell me where they are. They might be sitting in a crate somewhere. don't think they're going to be in there. No, that's just that. Why is that still functioning? Did I turn that off or something? Okay. I'm going to go see if I can find these blue slugs, come back and readjust the production of those two. So what I'm going to do, I'll do this and I'll come back at the very end of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab the two constructors, so those two far end production lines, up them both to create 20 per minute iron rods, and manifold them to the three assemblers that are making the versatile frameworks, and then we'll shut down the other two completely. So we'll do that. And then we will then use the excess iron ore to up the production of the foundry there to 60 per minute, to feed that at 60 per minute to keep this going correctly. To hopefully do that before our steel beams run out of our container below us. So if we jump onto there, you see that when we started here had 1600, it's now got 300, 1366 in it. So it's gone through like 300 since we've just been sitting here. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to need 2 4 power shards to do that. And then I'll probably just store the rods into container and sink the rest. And then I'll probably just shut down the other two production lines altogether and just have the two running. And then we'll have an awesome sink as well, so that any excess that we're making, because we're going to be making 40 a minute, we only need 36, so we'll just sink the rest, which will start to build us some coupons up, which will be something. And then that should allow us to up that and get all this sorted out. So I'm going to go away, find some blue slugs or get some more shards, redo that setup, and I'll come back at the end and wrap up. Okay, I think we might have got that all sorted out. Ended up doing something slightly different to our originally planned. Let's get down here. So I've now made a single constructor overclocked to 250%, making 37.5 per minute, which is a 1.5 over what we need, which is 36 a minute. That goes into a single container. Not really needed, but it'll do. And then that is fed into a manifold style conveyor belt system that is feeding the three assemblers making the modular frames. So 1, 2, and 3. And they are running at 100%, which is cool. So what that basically meant is, now that I've done that, we've got rid of those two smelters that were here. That's doing nothing now, so that can actually be dismantled as well, along with that. And that's doing nothing, so that can go as well. And that's that. So now we've basically got 3 containers that are essentially, not essentially, basically they're all full. Not quite, that one not quite, that one is. So I've got like 12,000 rods. So we'll do something with that at some point. I'll probably store a bunch of them and sink the rest. Now, because we've got this using so we've got two smelters here feeding that single constructor. I've underclocked it to 63%, which means they're doing 19 each to feed the 38 that it needs, or 37.5, so it's a bit over. And this means it's also needing 37.5 or 19 iron ore for each one of them. So as a result of that, we've now got 120 iron ore coming in there, 30 of it going that way basically to there. The rest of it, which is 90, comes through to here, and I've also put a shard in this one and given it also a boost up to 60 per minute, which is dead on 133.3332%. That's feeding this guy, which as you recall was running about 75%. Now it's almost up to 100, which means that will now feed across to here and keep this going well at 100% and maintain that 100%. So that means we now have 634 in there. So what I'm actually going to do these in 200. So I'll grab that one, and that should be 600 on me. So now we'll drop down to the space elevator, and we will feed it the 600 that we've just made. So 600, beautiful. 400 to go. Cool. So that's that one sorted. So next up is we need to look at automated wiring, and I'm not too sure what automated wiring is actually made in. Let me go check. I think it's an assembler. Have I got one down there? No. Pretty sure it's not made in that. No, let me just plonk down a assembler so we can actually missing what I need, rotors. I think I should have some in here. Yes, we do. I might just turn it. Let's put it there. Okay, sadly, it's doing that. So it needs a stator and cable. Okay, so stator is yet again a new production line, which I think is also made in this thing. Yeah, stators. I'm pretty sure it needs a rotor and steel pipe and wire. Okay. So steel pipe. Okay, steel pipe comes with steel beams, so we've got that production line ready. So we can just flick that over to steel beams when we're ready, or steel pipe, sorry. And wire, I've got an absolute bucketload of wire I can make because we've got. If I can get over this thing. Oh, for a start, I've got thousands of it sitting in there. In fact, we've got nearly 9,000 wire sitting in there, and we can obviously make more through this little setup here because that's copper ore just there. So that's going to make the stator relatively easy to make. Not too sure exactly where we will make it. Whether we make a new production floor on this factory we've got here, or whether we do something else. But that'll make the stator. And then the other thing it needed was Cable. So cable's made also from wire. So having to use the wire in the stator and then use the wire to make the cable means that we probably won't have enough of a production output. With that's making cable. So cable. So wire comes out of that. At a base level, it makes 30 a minute, and you need to 60 wire a minute to make 30 cable a minute. So how much wire do we need for the data? 40 a minute. So you need 40 a minute for that, and then you need to make 30 a minute wire is the default. So it needs to make 40 a minute. And then automated wiring also needs cable at 50 a minute. So you almost actually need to make 40 wire a minute there and 50 a wire and 50 cable a minute there. But because it's a 2-to-1 ratio from wire to cable, so if we come across to one of these, I think that one, yeah, this one's making cable, you get 60 wire to get 30 cable. So if you want 30 cable, you need 60 wire. So if I need 50 cable a minute over here, for this iNEX you need 100 wire a minute to be made. And then we also need 40 wire a minute to make the stators. That makes 5 a minute. And so we could halve that to 2.5 a minute. So that would maybe need 20 wire and 7.5. So 20 wire plus the 100 we said over here to make the 50 cable for this. Yeah, okay. So still looking at 120 wire a minute at a minimum, if not a little bit, if not more. So I don't think there's enough iron ore production here to make that much. Oh, actually, you get it's a 1 to 2 out of that. Okay, so it's a 1 to 2, then a 2 to 1. Okay. So how much copper ore can we feed it? So we've got to mark one belt. So normal nodes, so you could put a Mark II mine on it and go 120. So if we had 120, this might actually work out. We might be able to make this. So if we had 120 coming in, and I don't have any shards on them to do some to do upgrades, not upgrades, sorry, to make more of them, to make them go higher. So if we had 4 of these running at 30, you'd have 30, 60, 120 a minute being made. And from that 120 a minute, because you're doubling it, you'd end up with 240 a minute. Well, okay, it might work. You might be able to do that. The only question is where I'm going to build it. I might, the option is actually to keep building towards the miner, towards over the top of my head here. If we did that, we could probably just build it relatively close to that. So we're going to need that. Yeah, okay. So I think we're good. Let's go check everything, then we'll wrap this episode up. Check all these new production lines to see if they're all going okay. So let's have a look to see what you're running at. You're running at 100%. That's good. It's going to that will eventually, over a long period of time, fill up because it's only needing 36, but we're making 37.5. So 1.5 a minute. There's 400 and odd there, so it's going to take a fair bit of time to fill up. What I really would like, and I don't have them available yet, is a smart splitter, which would allow me to have overflow as an output. And you'd basically put one in the middle of that and have it overflow, that if it ever backed up, it would just overflow and you'd put into an awesome sink or another storage container or something. What that does is it keeps everything running rather than backing up and stopping. So it does have it's one of the things when I first started playing the game, I wasn't sort of really aware of that was a legitimate thing to do. I always had this idea that you had to store everything forever. It just becomes a massive issue because you're trying to store materials for like forever. You end up just building storage containers after storage containers. So, and then you end up just having so much of it, it just doesn't become worth it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to eventually, between now and the next episode, I will, if I remember it, hopefully, I'm going to basically empty those two containers into an awesome sink and just sink a lot of them. I'm going to grab the fair chunk of those and store them in one of the containers down here. Probably one of those two. I might even make a third one and just store rods in it, and then we'll get rid of the rest. And then we'll keep an eye on this. We've already back up to 80 odd, so that's cool. So let's just go check. So they're running okay. We should have these running okay. 100%. 100%. 100%. Beautiful. So that's making 6 of them a minute. Collectively, we only needed, was it 5 here? 2.5, so we're making way more than we need. But as you can see, we are on top of it. And you can see there when this one finished making, the steel beams will drop down to 188, and then it'll slowly build up again. So when it takes the next 12, like that. Now what you really want to look for is, does that get back to 200 by the time the current one is finished, and it's going to do that quite comfortably. So that is running 100% all good, which basically means that everything else is running 100%, which means this should be running 100%, and it is, and as is that. So basically we had an issue with power at the beginning, we fixed that out. In fact, let's go check that before we run away. Just to make sure. I'm really interested in whether those last couple of generators are getting fed, have done anything with their coal. You may recall that they weren't running at 100, and they didn't have 100 coal in them. Let's just go. I'm just curious as to what they're now doing. So probably though, I think it was around the 74, 75 mark as before. It's around 70, I think, wasn't it? Yep. So that's not changed at all. So that's all fine. That's all absolutely good. Now, next is going to be, once we start building more stuff, we might start getting towards the end of the top end of that power. So what have we got? 600 made. You're consuming 318. It does fluctuate up and down a little bit. Now it's 303. Now it's 318, so you can see with the map of that bottom graph it's been going up and down relatively consistent between 303 and 318 or whatever it was. So I think we can... So what's causing that one to fluctuate? So I was saying before, if you have a an awesome sink and you can do overflow, you can keep everything actually running. There's nothing backs up and stops because it's always making stuff. Because even if you have a full container, you're sort of putting your stuff through. You'll always have an awesome sink to go to if it's backed up. So I'm actually curious. So that should be running 100% and is, and that we're running 100%. Yep. And we know we've got two machines that aren't running down there because of the copper ore not stuffing in there, but are these running 100? Yep. That one, 100, 100. I think everything down here is running well. 100, 100. 100, but probably every now and then it goes up to 500 screws and then might idle for a bit, maybe, not too sure. Just do a quick check up here. So that's going to be running fine. 100, yep. So we are still getting into the... That's going into there. Yeah, that's a long way away from finishing or filling up, so... Yeah, I'm curious as to why it fluctuates, because I think everything's running 100%. Might be some of the miners maybe not running 100% consistently, but anyway. So we've got a couple of nearly 300 headroom there, so that'll be enough to build the construction materials and buildings we need to use all that wire, that copper ore, to make that wire, to make the cable and the wire, and this to make the to eventually make the automated wiring. But that's for next one. Yeah, that'll do for episode. What am I in? Episode 4, I think. Let me go check that. Anyway, end of this episode, whether it's 3 or 4, doesn't really matter. I'll be back hopefully in a fortnight with the next one. And until then, thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Bye.